Good afternoon, traders. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes as usual. See if we get some people jumping in. We've had the Bank of England rate decision, so we're going to talk a little bit about that, what could happen potentially next in the UK. We've got the one spot 26.50 level coming under a bit of pressure at the moment, so we'll see if that holds. If we get any kind of reaction from that level, that would be quite interesting to see, interesting to know. We'll go over a little bit of detail about it. So if you have any comments, questions, then drop them in the chat box. A few currency pairs that I'm watching, keeping a bit of an eye on. So I'll go over those as well. Got some dollar data probably out during this stream at 3 p.m. as well, which is the ISM Services PMI. Manufacturing PMI came in above previous but below expectations. So be interesting to see how the Services PMI, whether that's been reflected there as well. So yeah, we'll jump over it to a few of those dollar pairs too. Hi Mike, haven't looked at dollar yen just yet. We can take a look though. So yeah, we'll jump on that. Maybe I'll round back to cable, considering this news has already been done with, so we can take a look at other dollar pairs first. As my microphone is on the wrong microphone, so it probably sounded horrible. Hopefully that's changed. Hopefully that's a bit better. The one time I don't check it and it reverts back to the old one. Right, let's go check out dollar yen. Mike's having a little look at dollar yen. Let's have a quick look at that then. So seeing a bit of risk off coming back into the market. We talked a lot about the volatility index. We talked about seeing the volatility index having a little bit of a rise lately. And if we actually just take a look at the VIX, I'll just quickly bring that on. You can see that we're rallying on the VIX as well. So there's a possibility here that we are starting to see that risk off play coming involved. We've kind of come from those 1340 lows up towards 1640 at the moment. So definitely getting a little bit of that risk off sentiment coming back into the market. And you can see that across the board. If you go to the likes of Aussie yen, starting to see a drop to the downside. CAD yen's also suffered because of that. I know we were quite bullish on CAD yen, but we haven't really seen the right situation to be long in that market. But yeah, stocks as well. If you take a look at stock markets, you can see S&P on this 15-minute time frame trending to the downside as well. So got a bit of risk off in the market. VIX rallying, which is something we discussed, that could float to the yen. Yen could come under a little bit of pressure, and dollar yen in turn could start trading a little bit lower due to the fact that we have got that news coming up as well. So yeah, definitely a little bit of risk off play coming in there. Thanks, Denise. Yeah, I am now the big 3-0. Thank you, Vincent. And good afternoon to you both. Hope you're both well. Fitch downgraded the US credit score. Interesting. We're definitely in that sort of low volume period, though. You can tell just by how the market's moving to some of this kind of data that's being dropped at the moment. But yeah, I'd say dollar yen's are suffering a little bit from that risk off sentiment at the moment. How that reacts to the services PMI, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, if we see sort of any kind of big changes there where we see a bit of a drop in the ISM services PMI, then we're going to see some quite significant changes to the US dollar. If we take a look at the dollar index, pretty much still in that bullish phase at the moment, heading now towards the 103 handle, which again was a little bit surprising. I was expecting some kind of rejection around the 102s. Didn't get that. And like I said before, I like to follow that sort of weekly 4-hour path. So when you look at the 4-hour time frame here, price making those higher highs, higher lows, 20 and the 50, just from a visual perspective, trading higher, means we could probably start seeing that sort of trend continuation. Until that changes, we should technically still remain a bit of a dollar bull in the short term anyway. $30, so young still, yeah. Still young. Everyone keeps calling me old now, but I don't get it. I don't get it. Christopher, what do you think of gold? Let's go take a look at gold then. I'm a bit neutral gold, to be honest. We did break down through this 1945 area that we were looking at previously. When that broke to the downside, there was a large expectation that we would come and see these prices down through here. But I did say there was kind of like a supporting trend line in the way. I mean, if we look at it from a weekly perspective, we've got this trend line support. So trend line comes in at the low here of the week of the 20th of November 2022. Coming in through here at the February 2023 lows, expanded out, and you can see we had a recent sort of touched back in June, and now we're kind of coming back down towards it again. So does this area hold essentially? Do we see maybe dollar index hitting that 103? If it hits the 103, rejects it, then maybe gold's going to start trading back to the upside. But for now, I'm looking at this as on a bit of a neutral basis. don't really see much bias in gold at this moment in time. Just going to wait to see how it reacts to this trend line. I mean, trend lines are very subjective. Anyone can draw a trend line on a screen, but when they are very kind of blatant, then I kind of take notice of them, which is what I feel like is with this weekly one. I feel like there's a lot of analysts' eyes on this at the minute. So we'll see if price kind of trades through it. If it does, will we come and retest that 1890 low? Alternatively, if we get a rejection and a bounce, ultimately I want to be above 1980 if I'm going to look for any kind of longs on gold, just because of how price has reacted to that level recently. If we take a look at that level, that 1980, we've rejected in here. Even if we look in the past, we had lots of support, rejection, a couple of rejections there. So I think if you're going to be sort of long gold, it's going to be your confidence levels are going to increase above 1980, where you've got the opportunity then to trade to that sort of $2,050 area. At the moment, I'm still, like I said, still a bit neutral. We have this consolidation here where we saw a breakout, so maybe prices coming back down towards that consolidation to then pick up some more orders maybe before heading back to the upside. So yeah, I'm just going to sit on the hands. There's a saying in the markets, if you keep your powder dry essentially to fight another day. So if I'm not sure about a market, I'll kind of walk away and wait for a little bit of some kind of breakouts in some kind of areas, and gold's one of those at the moment. Although we did kind of predict this breakdown, it's been over a good few days now. So we need a catalyst, I think. 57, still young, Denise. Right, let's go flick over to some other pairs of interest then. So I'm just going to flick over to cable because we've obviously had that Bank of England announcement. Prices continued low. If I just go to the hourly time frame, you can see the kind of reaction that occurred around the event. We had quite a bit of volatility there. So some kind of move which spanned around about 60, 70 pips. And we're just kind of remaining in that at the moment. Now, what we had was the Bank of England hiked interest rates to 5.25%. it's pretty unanimous with that rate rise, to be honest. We talked about it in yesterday's video. It comes with a lot of difficult sort of predicaments for the Bank of England. But there were some notes that were released with it, so I'll just kind of read those through to you. The monetary policy report kind of warned that the food inflation still remained extremely high. It's currently at 17.3%, and they expect it to be around about 10% by the end of the year. They've also predicted that inflation would drop below 5% by the end of the year as well, and that's halving of inflation. So I do expect this to have quite a dramatic effect on the future stance of inflation. So we'll see if this is the last hike or not. Now, unemployment's on the rise in the UK. We know that. I also talked a little bit about business bankruptcies. The fact that small and large businesses aren't doing particularly well. We're starting to see them coming into almost pre-2008 crash levels. And that's quite significant, I feel, because obviously if businesses are going into bankruptcy or businesses are near bankruptcy, then they're not going to be hiring in the economy. There's going to be that tightening there. We're going to see that sort of loose employment data coming out of the UK. Less people have job opportunities. Essentially, what we need to see in the UK is that higher unemployment. We need to see that coming up a little bit. So there's less spending in the economy, less on inflation. But we'll see how that one continues. Sorry if you could hear some flapping ears in the background. That's my dog just deciding to shake his head. Christopher, does that affect pound yen? Absolutely, it will affect pound yen. Any kind of pound Forex pair will be affected by the Bank of England rate announcement. It'll be a little bit compounded over on the yen as well. Like I said, we have that risk off element in the market today as well. VIX volatility index is rising, so that usually has an effect on the Japanese yen as well. Yen usually gets stronger in those risk off markets. So we're having a little bit of a double effect there on pound yen today. But we'll see how this next bit of news comes out as well, because I'm interested to see what the dollar data is by the end of this week. Obviously, we have non-farm payroll tomorrow as well. You never hear the dog in the back. Oh, that's good. That's good. On some videos, I have to stop filming because I can hear him in the background. I don't even know where he's gone. He's gone somewhere. But that's good. Means the microphone's doing its job. So I've been looking at a lot of Aussie pairs lately. Aussie coming under some pressure. He's back. Aussie coming under some pressure, especially against the likes of the US dollar. So if we just head over to Aussie, you can see here that we are trending to the downside here. The last time we kind of spoke about Aussie was after it hit these lows in here and price traded lower. The one thing I did discuss, because everyone was kind of asking how you could probably get on the back of that Aussie move, and that was just a break of lower time frame trends. And what I like to use in those type of situations is breaks of sort of trend lines, support and resistance levels. So if you did see a break of that trend line there, price did eventually break lower. And again, that sort of dollar data yesterday as well with the manufacturing, the non-farm employment change, really did help drive that US dollar stronger. And, you know, if the non-farm payroll, if the non-farm, ADP non-farm employment change came in as high as it did, kind of suggests what could happen with the non-farm payroll going into tomorrow's. You know, it's expected to be 203 on the forecast, but I don't really see that happening, especially because the ADP non-farm was nearly double what it was expected. So maybe another rise there, and another problem for the Fed, because the Fed want to see that employment rate coming down as well, and it's just not happening at the moment. It's not happening too much anyway. So Denise Short, Aussie US dollar Tuesday morning. Nice. Yeah, that's continued. It looks like we're coming into this kind of low area now, which could find a little bit of a sticking point, bit of a consolidation there before a move higher. So we are approaching that. But I do like Aussie weakness. We did discuss pound Aussie longs this week as well. They worked out pretty well. Ended up with like a profit out of this 180 pips. That went on to another, I think it was 300 odd pips it rallied in the end before seeing this kind of pullback coming in. So pound Aussie could still be one to watch going forward. I just want to see that pound strength coming back. We are back at that supporting level now. So I do maybe expect one spot 26.50 to hold. If it does hold, then pound US dollar could rally. That could then affect sort of your cross pairs, because we have to remember when you come into trade a cross pair, and I always say this every time I'm on stream, but you have to make sure you understand that you're not trading pound against the Australian dollar. You're trading the pound US dollar spot price against the Aussie US dollar. Okay. So, you know, if you want pound Aussie to move to the upside, you need pound to gain strength and the Australian US dollar to move lower. And that's kind of what's been happening recently. Obviously, it depends on the strength of the pullbacks that we've had. Pound has been in a strong upward trend with these kind of minor pullbacks. Aussie's been in a long-term range, bouncing from these highs and lows. And now we're kind of at the lows of the range again. So what we need to consider is pound strength going to come back through? Is that trend going to continue? And the way we can kind of look at it is, well, what's the Bank of England's outlook? Well, the Bank of England, inflation is still very high. You know, I reckon they could at least go to 5.5%, let alone maybe 5.75%. What do we have at the RBA at the moment? The RBA are held at 4.1%. So you can also consider, like, if you were long in this market, you've got the carry trade as well, which could help. So really speaking, pound Aussie upside looks good for the narrative for the time being. We've got this one spot 97 handle, which could come into play. You can see I've got this kind of like almost wedge pattern coming in there. And it all kind of culminates all at this one spot 97 handle. So I like the idea of it kind of reaching that level, maybe even working within it, or then sort of trading away. Or if it could break out, then even better, because we've got that 2.05 area, which could come under some interest as well. So you got the differentials in the sort of central bank information there. Also, as well, you've got the differential between sort of cable and Aussie US dollar. So just something to consider. And looking at the sort of daily time frame at the moment, it's looking pretty good. 4 hours looking pretty good as well. You know, if anything, you're kind of looking at that sort of area as support at the moment. I think along there is very aggressive, to be honest. I think if you're looking at along there, that is a very, very aggressive entry. I would like to see a bit more of a deeper retracement. You could look at maybe some kind of trend line entries, or just kind of some kind of deeper pullback before getting long on that one. You could argue that you could look for some kind of trend line resistance coming through, and once it trades through that trend line resistance, then you could look at something along those lines. But yeah, like I said, Aussie weakness looking good. I think we looked at Euro Aussie as well. Euro Aussie now kind of breaking back to the upside. It was being held at this one spot 65 handle. Past couple of days, we've seen it trade through that. We're now back at these highs and here, so probably need to sit on our hands. But what I did quite like was this overall sort of range that's been developing here. You know, and if price comes back to the range, could it then invite some further buying pressures there? There's something to consider. I think, Vincent, were you long Euro Aussie in here, or was it Euro Kiwi? Can't remember which one it was, but if you were and you held that, that's a brilliant move through there. Can't remember if it was Euro Oz or Euro Kiwi that you had a look at. Let's see if I have it here. Might have even been Pan Kiwi, sorry. But Pan Kiwi performed pretty nicely for you there. Yeah, I remember now. About 300 pips to the top of that range. That was a nice target area we discussed. So yeah, nice move for you there, Vincent. Well done. What are the ones to look at? Oh, I looked at Aussie Swiss. Aussie Swiss. Let me bring in Aussie Swiss. So Aussie Swiss, interesting market, right? Like the idea of being involved with this. It is coming to an extended point where we could see a little bit of a turnaround. Now, we did discuss on Tuesday the strength meter and the fact that the Swiss franc was the strongest currency. So when it is in that kind of area there, I kind of look at it as it's still the strongest currency, but it could come to a point where it reverses. So what I was looking at was the fact that is it going to remain strong and what could it be stronger against? Like I said, I like the Aussie. So we've been looking at this kind of area down through here, sort of the 57 down to the 56s. I like the 56 a little bit more because if you go to the daily time frame and you zoom out, you've got the opens and closes around about that 56 handle. So I quite like that sort of move in there. If I was just to add let me just turn this over a second. Just want to put that onto default and then click OK. If I was to add kind of like a weekly fib in here, I'm just kind of projecting what could potentially happen. We had a pullback to the 61.8, and usually you could look for sort of the 161.8. You could look for the 127 extension as well. As a bit of a sticking point as well for price. So I do quite like the opportunity here on Aussie Swiss. Let me just zoom in so it looks a little bit neat for you. So the weekly is going to continue to trend like that. Obviously, you know what I'm like. I like the fact that the weekly is pushing to the downside. So whenever we get these kind of impulse phases, I'm basically looking to try and jump on that little 4-hour trend. So if we go to the 4-hour time frame, you can actually see loads of different opportunities we could have taken in this market. And you can see the 20 and the 50s in line there. We've got the breaches of the RSI where it comes over 50, comes back through it. So every time it does that could present us with a little bit of a decent trading opportunity. So really speaking, there's been an option sort of here to get short, down through there, back through here, here, there as well, and then most recently just through there. So there's been sort of multiple opportunities for us to try and get on the back of this weekly bearish trend. It's just Aussie Swiss has not particularly been on my sort of radar too much, considering I was trading other things. So could we try and maybe catch that final move into the 0 spot 56? And if we can, what should we look for? Well, you can either look at it from a strategy basis like this, where you've got the 20 and the 50. If that pulls back into those levels there and you get the RSI through there and then it crosses back through, that can be sort of a strategy idea. The other idea you could look for is just looking for that price action entry. If price pulls back into sort of the 5.8 area, 5.8 25s, perhaps back into those previous highs, then that's something that could work as well. I'm trying to delete all these. So yeah, different type of entry criteria in there. I quite like a little bit higher up into the 58.25, just because you've almost got that accumulation through there. So is price going to come and sort of retest that area and then continue down? That's what I'm looking for on Aussie Swiss. What was the other Aussie pair I was looking at? So we've looked at Aussie dollar, Euro Oz, we've kind of talked about. Aussie Swiss, I like. Pound Aussie, we've kind of discussed. So I think that's about it for my Aussie pairs. I was looking at a bit of a Kiwi dollar short. Kiwi also a little bit weaker as well. Again, you got that kind of play, the risk off markets. Yeah, price broke down nicely through here. I don't know if I covered a video of Kiwi dollar back at this area for a short, but I ended up going short back in this consolidation. Price is now traded really nicely to the downside. Looking at this from a weekly is where I get a little bit sort of excited of what could come from New Zealand US dollar, because we've got a break potentially of this long-term trend line. I am a bit more of a believer in the horizontals, so you can see the 61 handle there, so you've got that kind of range between 63.75 and 61. Now, the last time we talked about a breakout here, you know, we were talking about getting short down to these lows, and price just completely reversed back. So it might do the same again. We might not get that move down, but we were looking at basically this area in here. I'm just going to put it onto 0 spot 56. We were practically looking at that move. Here, right? And we were looking at if price traded through that trend line there, could it continue to break to the downside, perhaps into that 0 spot 56 handle? And yeah, I very much like that idea until price basically reversed on us, give us that sort of false breakout, and then we traded all the way back to the range highs. And now we're having a sort of a second attempt at it. So are we going to see that breakdown again? Is that then going to follow through and continue? If it does, can we take advantage of this market? Now, seasonally, Kiwi does underperform for the month of August, so that could also play into our sort of bias to this market this month. But we need to see some more evidence here, I think. Now we're getting this breakdown. It's good. It's given us that sort of thing of, yeah, that could continue. We've got to be aware that we're coming into these lows, of course. What I would like to see is this kind of 4-hour sort of trend continue. You know, like I said before, you get the 20 and the 50 moving average in line. It gives you a good sense of what could potentially happen next, okay? And you can see they're both pointing down. There's a potential for price to pull back even and continue. So there might be something coming up there for New Zealand US dollar. What I'd say is just keep that one on your watch list. Thanks, Caleb. Appreciate you. Result. Hey, can you do some analysis on gold? Yeah, what we'll do is we'll jump on gold now. I've already done a little bit of analysis on gold, but we do have the ISM services PMI coming up in around about a minute or so. So we'll sit on gold during that. What we discussed basically on gold was the factors is kind of around the dollar. How's the dollar performing? I'm expecting the dollar now to come to the 103 maybe, perhaps even to the 103 spot 50. Now, the interesting areas on gold for us was this 1945. We kind of discussed if that broke down, could we come down to the next area of support? We're back at this weekly trend line support as well. So I'm a little bit more neutral on gold than I would be. I'm just kind of waiting to see what does happen with price. I'd be confident to be long above 1980 because that's obviously the resistance. If we got above that, I think that's, you know, you can say there's a good possibility of price moving higher. Below this 1980 though, I think we've got a little bit of doubt coming in here where we could see price coming back down into this sort of 1917 area, perhaps down into the 1890 support that we've found recently. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Maybe this services PMI can push price. Whether it pushes price at that aggressively, who knows? But you can see we're starting to get a bit of a reaction here. Let's go to that. We'll set on the 15-minute time frame. We'll see what happens. You can see this nice big consolidation all day. So the market's obviously been a bit indecisive. Caleb took some nice swing on cable from Monday open and just closed out. I was hoping price would continue down to the 1 spot 23 handle. That would have been a big move if it got down to the 1 spot 23. I think that's like another 300 pips away, isn't it? I think that would have been a massive move, big ATR move that would have been. But I think cable every single day has kind of reached its max sort of ATR, which is super interesting at the moment. So what have we got? Okay, so services PMI came in at 52.7, which is below the forecast. It's below previous, so it's dropped from 53.9. And we kind of discussed this the other day with the manufacturing PMI. Manufacturing PMI has been a little bit softer. We wondered if it would filter into the services PMI as well, and it looks like it has. Services PMI now 52.7. And let's have a little look at how the dollar's performing off the back of that news. Not a lot's going on. Not a lot's going on. Does that mean the market's waiting for the jobs data tomorrow? Strong possibility that we're waiting for that jobs data tomorrow. Dollar index for me, the dollar is pretty bullish, so I wouldn't mind seeing a move, like I said, to that 103 handle, perhaps even into 103.50. So maybe we're waiting for the jobs data to have a big impact going into tomorrow's session. But yeah, just jumping on that cable there for you, Caleb. Then you've got one spot 26.50 is that big weekly level of support. So I think if you're looking for one spot 23, you want to see price trade through that level first. Once it kind of breaks down through that level, then you've got the opportunity to look for that one spot 23 handle. You could even look for, which is kind of these lows in here. If it trades through one spot 23, then you've got sort of the 18.50 handle to look at as well. But yeah, that would have been a big ATR move. I think the ATR on a weekly basis is around 250 pips. And we've already pretty much done that this week. Yeah, we're already at 250 pips. So don't see much movement in cable now, unless we get that sort of NFP data tomorrow. We might see a little bit of market manipulation. We might see the dollar start to weaken into the NFP numbers. The NFP numbers come out big. We get a big jump in dollar again. So there is some potential for that as well. Any other markets we can look at, guys? Average hourly earnings is also expected to fall to spot 3%. Unemployment rate expected to remain the same at 3.6. So yeah, that NFP is going to be a big one tomorrow. Whoa, we've got a bot in the chat. Is it a bot? Maybe not. Anyone interested? Cash Kings, please remove yourself. We do not promote anything like that here. Thank you very much. We post real analysis here, not magical flips. No, I don't think it was a bot. I think it was a guy just generally speaking his services. He's going to try and flip accounts for people. If you can flip accounts, there's no way you're asking more people to jump in with more money. You just flip it yourself. Euro dollar coming into a bit of an area. Let's have a little look across. I mean, euro, I'm not too into at the minute. Again, you got this kind of weekly downward movement. If we look at the 4-hour time frame, very much bearish at the moment. We could probably add a couple of different sort of trend lines in, but you can see sort of the steeper the trend line declines are getting. That just shows you how accelerated the market is at the moment. But I'm not particularly interested in euro dollar just yet. There is a volume level down through here. I think it's around about the 108.70s or something like that. So I think we could see a little bit more decline there as well. I think you didn't see it as well, Denise, because it was on Facebook, in the Facebook comments. Let's have a quick look at CAD. Yeah, we've also got CAD, obviously, employment coming out tomorrow as well. Unemployment rate expected to rise to 5.5%. Jobs forecast coming at 24.5K. Yeah, I must admit I'm a little bit disappointed by this market. I thought we would get that kind of push up into that 109 handle again. Didn't quite get that. Again, that risk off has just stalled any kind of market move here at the moment. So daily bearish candlesticks, no good for me. I want to see some kind of reversal to that before any kind of long opportunities come into play there. WTI started to flip as well. We come into these highs, and this is where we were kind of discussing at the time. I think WTI was down here, and I thought that extra push could give CAD yen a bit of a move. But yeah, we're stuck at sort of the 82 spot 50 handle at the moment. On oil, whether we break sort of the 83.60s, then we'll go up to sort of the 92s. But at the moment, we're kind of stuck. So let's have a quick look at the S&P. I don't think S&P got to my level of interest. No. 46.26 was my level of interest. We didn't quite make it there. We are starting to pull back a little bit, but you know, there are some kind of trend line supports going on through here. Bit of a bull channel going on. Yeah, Ifran must have read your mind. So I had a little look at CAD yen there. I got 268 pips on pound kiwi to the upside, my biggest win. Well done, Vincent. It's about using your stock management techniques, banking that profit, keeping a hold of it now. Difference between somebody making it and not making it is definitely your stock management rules. Right, so hopefully we can keep on top of that for you, Vincent. Right, that was a bit of a nothing move from the ISM Services PMI by the looks of it. If we take a look at, I say that, and now it's starting to trigger down a little bit. We're getting a bit of weakness starting to fall through now. So we'll see if that can remain. Euro, dollar starting to spike. Gold is probably going to spike off the back of that. Gold above 1939 could see a move up to the 1944. I think if you're a day trader, that's the sort of thing you'll be looking for. Breaks above highs could offer a move into the next level of sort of volume area, which is in here. So if you were going to look for any kind of sneaky day trade, you know, maybe there's something there. Depends on obviously what you do and what your kind of style is. But yeah, you can see that accumulation there. Could see a pop up to that sort of 1945 area. So obviously starting to see a little bit of effect of that news now. Right, any more questions, guys? I think I'm going to leave it there. Birthday stream and all. Birthday stream, I'll leave it a little bit early. So I hope you don't mind. Any more questions, guys? All good. Yeah, Denise, I agree there. I think it's all just setting up for tomorrow. We'll see what that NFP is. Thank you, Code It. Really appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much. Right. I'll leave it there, guys. Thank you for joining me as usual. I really appreciate all your comments, questions, and things like that. I will speak to you next week, and I hope you have a safe trading day. If you do have your little trading session going into NFP, be very careful, manage that risk well, and I hope you do very well. And yeah, I will speak to you all next week. Thank you for joining me once again. I really appreciate it. If you can leave the stream a like, that would really be nice, and be a birthday present for me. So thank you, and I'll catch you guys next week. Cheers.